Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so very much to the sponsors. Your generosity, your kindness are deeply appreciated, and it is why I continue making these videos. So thank you. Today we're talking about something that I actually am embarrassed to start talking about, because it is so obvious and everybody seems to know it. But questions have been asked, mostly on the sister channel, since I, at the moment, cannot follow regularly my comments. So, I will address this question. And namely, we are talking about rates and the rating system of ships. Obviously, this applies to warships only. And not every nation uses the same system. Because rightly or wrongly, the overwhelming majority of ship models made, and because also that's the system that I'm better acquainted with, the French is similar but slightly more complicated. We'll start with the British system of rating. Actually, I probably should have said English system, since it emerged way before the union of the crowns with Scotland, which happened in 1707. So, sensu stricto, it is the English system that was eventually accepted within the United Kingdom. It is a 17th century development, and nowadays we assume that rate is tied to the number of guns that the ship carried, because the best known system, of course, from the 18th century, the Masonic Navy, is 100 and more guns first rate, 90 to 98 guns second rate, third rates anything from 64 to 80 guns. The 50 to 54 guns would be fourth rate, up to 44 guns fifth rate, sixth rate 20 to 20 to 28 gun frigates. But this is not how the system emerged at all. In fact, originally the system had nothing to do with the number of guns. It had everything to do with the seniority of the captain of the ship and the pay rate for the vessel. So the system emerged in the early 17th century as a way of distinguishing the pay scale for the commanding officers and for the crew of each of the ships. And that was only partially connected with the size of the vessel. There was a connection between them, but it had no direct connection whatsoever with the number of guns. That was immaterial for the purpose. That gradually started changing throughout the 17th century. By the mid-17th century, of course, there were 200 gun ships in the English Navy Royal. Even during the rebellion and the times of the usurper Cromwell, the first-rate ships, the two largest, the 100 gun ships, were of course Prince Royal of 1610 and Sovereign of the Seas, which by this stage was, well, during the usurpation it was known simply as Sovereign. After the restoration of the monarchy, it became Royal Sovereign, but it was the same old Sovereign of the Seas of 1637. These were by far the two largest and most heavily armed ships. They also happened to be extremely expensive to operate because of the crew requirements. In the first-rate group followed two vessels of 80 guns that originally, when constructed, were called Nesby and Richard, after the son of the dictator Cromwell. But the moment the monarchy was restored, they were renamed to Royal James and Royal Charles. Nesby became Royal Charles. Richard became Royal James. Royal Charles, famously or infamously, depending on your point of view and which side of the barricade you're sitting, the Dutch captured during the raid at Medway in 1667. Royal James was burned in the same raid. Only Charles was towed back to the Netherlands and lasted until 1673. The Dutch shipwright Van Eyck actually lists the dimensions of the vessels because he had the opportunity to measure the ship while on display in the Netherlands. She proved to be completely useless to the Dutch because she drew too much water. And the shallow coastal waters of the Netherlands was not the ideal circumstances of using such a large vessel. Their firepower was awesome, overwhelming, but the inconvenience was the draft. What is discernible about the first and the largest of the vessels is that on the lower deck, on the gun deck, they carried 42-pounders. The 42-pounder would be abandoned in the second half of the 18th century in favor of the 32 or 36-pounders. And the reason behind it is that they were easier to handle than the 42-pounders. So although the punching power of a 32-pounder is obviously less than a 42-pounder, a full cannon of 7, the increased rate of fire compensated significantly for this difference in weights. And it was deemed to be better. Overall, that the performance is improved by carrying the slightly lighter gun. One thing that is rarely mentioned, of course, but probably played a certain role in this decision was also the difference in recoil between the two cannons. The 42 will put much more strain on the timbers of the ship than would a 32-pounder. The next class is the second rates. In the 17th century, they differ widely. They're from a low of about 60 guns or 64 guns all the way up to 90 guns. Ships could shift from one rate into another. For example, when constructed, Sir Robert Holmes' favorite ship, St. Michael, a beautiful model which still survives, original contemporary model, probably built specifically for him, ordered by him. And as of summer 2025, it was on display in the Royal Maritime Museum in Greenwich. But returning to the vessel, initially it was intended to be a second rate, then it was re-rated as first rate. Then, during the beginning of the Third Anglo-Dutch War, it was considered the first rate. But after Robert Holmes stopped commanding her, she was re-rated again to second because she simply was too small. Initially, when the rating system began to be formalized during the reign of King Charles II, in the second rate fell all the old capital vessels or royal ships that survived or were rebuilt from the early 17th century. In the initial group of great ships, the so-called great ships, some of the vessels were rebuilt galleons from Elizabethan times, but gradually they were out of the service. But during the early years of the century, during the reforming commissions of 1619 and 1609 commissions, the creation of a fairly large group of vessels was ordered, the building, that by the middle of the century, from great ships were renamed second rates. This is St. Andrew, among many others, Victory, the ships that Borough constructed. This is what would have happened to Constant Reformation had she survived that late into the period. What was the difference between them and the larger first rates was that the second rates, the ex-great ships, had 3 decks like the others, but their third deck, the upper deck, was not completely armed. Carried guns forward, carried guns aft, but the waist usually was not armed. Incidentally, this is exactly the arrangement that you see on Vasa. She also is a 3-decker, no matter what the museum is telling you. She's a 3-decker with a third deck partially armed. Standard first half of the 17th century type of armament. Nothing revolutionary about it, nothing strange, nothing out of the way. Now, the third rates were a little bit more complicated genesis. They emerged from the so-called middling class of ships and initially were intended to be about 500 tons burden. This is not the same as displacement, as I seem to be repeating in every single video that I make. Completely different measurement. The tons burden is estimate of the volume inside the vessel under the main beam. Gradually, of course, these vessels, as all the other classes, increased in size, and by the 30-ship program from 1677, they were intended to be around 1,000 tons burden. Eventually, by the Napoleonic period, they would have grown to between 1,500 for the common class 74s, all the way to 1,700, 1,800 tons burden for the largest of the class towards the end of the Napoleonic Wars. This is our classical backbone of the fleet that we imagine nowadays, or at least those of you who are fans of the 18th century imagine. Yours truly is a fan of the 17th century, so I see something completely different. The third rates varied in armament dramatically in the 17th century from around 54, 56 guns all the way to over 70 guns, 70 to 74 for Royal Oak. Ironically and quite disconcertingly for people acquainted only with the later periods and the so-called Nelsonian Navy, some fourth rates could actually carry more guns than third rates. The difference, why the one was rated third and the other one fourth rate, the difference is coming from the actual caliber of the guns. And this is another piece of evidence that initially the rating system had nothing to do with the number of guns. The number of guns was coincidental to the rating system. By the 1670s, however, the chairman of the Committee for Execution of the Office of Lord High Admiral of England, namely Prince Rupert, who was a very rational man, King Charles II, who was equally rational man to him, and James, Duke of York, heir apparent to the throne, who was incredibly competent administrator, were leaning towards rationalizing the system. And from point of view that it would be easier to administer a more uniform naval force. This is when it was accepted that third rates should be between 60 and 70 guns, that 100 guns and more will be first rates, etc., etc. So this is where we begin to see the entrance of the modern system, thanks to these three extremely capable men. Normally, that credit is given to a little bureaucrat who liked to write diaries, namely Samuel Pepys. For some reason, he has managed to persuade, this is a little bit like communism, he has managed to persuade the world that he was the genius behind the Navy, that he created the Navy, that he rationalized it. And that, of course, is untrue. So, we have discussed briefly the first through third rates. And in a second video, we will be talking about fourth through sixth rates and the development. And then we should put this into historical perspective and how it develops. So, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I shall talk to you next time. Goodbye. And thank you very, very much for your sponsorship, for your generosity, for watching. Goodbye.